Have you ever felt like you're trying to move forward in life, but something invisible keeps pulling you back? You know what you want to change. You know what you should do. But somehow, you keep repeating the same patterns. You delay the things that matter. You question yourself. You stay in situations you know no longer fit who you are. And eventually, you start asking, why am I like this? But what if feeling stuck is not a sign that something is wrong with you? What if the part of you that is stopping you is actually trying to protect you? In this video, we'll explore the hidden psychology behind feeling stuck, why we repeat patterns we consciously want to change, and how understanding yourself can become the first step toward real transformation. Part 1. Why you feel stuck. Most people believe they are stuck because they lack discipline, motivation, or confidence. But often, the deeper reason is much more complex. Feeling stuck is usually not the absence of movement. It is an inner conflict. One part of you wants growth. It wants change, creativity, connection, and a different life. But another part is focused on safety. It remembers past experiences, past failures, past rejection, past moments where taking risks created pain. Imagine driving a car while pressing the accelerator and the brake at the same time. The engine is working, energy is being used, but the car barely moves. This is what happens psychologically when your desire for change conflicts with your need for protection. Carl Jung believed that much of our behavior is influenced by unconscious patterns, parts of the mind that operate outside our awareness. These patterns are not created to destroy our progress. They are usually created to protect us. A person who was constantly criticized as a child may grow into someone who avoids sharing their ideas. A person who learned that love depended on achievement may become trapped in constantly proving their worth. A person who experienced rejection may avoid opportunities where they could be seen. The problem is that a strategy that once protected you can eventually become the thing that limits you. And this is why simply telling yourself, I need to be more confident. I need to stop procrastinating. I just need more discipline, often doesn't work, because the deeper question is not, how do I force myself to change? The deeper question is, what part of me is afraid of what change might bring? Vincent van Gogh's life shows a powerful example of this conflict. Today, he is considered one of the most influential artists in history. But during his lifetime, he experienced rejection, financial struggles, and very little recognition. From the outside, his life looked like failure, but he continued creating. Not because he had no fear, not because he knew he would become famous. He continued because creating was connected to something deeper than external approval. His work was not simply about being accepted by the world. It was a way of understanding himself. And this reveals something important. Sometimes we become stuck because we measure our progress using the wrong thing. We look for proof that we are worthy before we allow ourselves to move forward. But growth often happens in the opposite direction. We move first, and through that movement, we discover who we are becoming. Have you ever experienced this in your own life? A moment where you wanted change, but something inside you resisted? Share your experience in the comments, because recognizing these patterns is often the first step toward changing them. Part 2. The hidden patterns that keep you stuck. The hardest part about feeling stuck is that the patterns holding us back are often invisible to us. We can easily see the habits of other people. We notice when someone keeps making the same mistakes. We notice when someone is afraid to take a risk. But when it comes to ourselves, we often experience these patterns as simply, this is just who I am. And this is where things become interesting. Because there is a difference between having a pattern and being a pattern. You may experience fear, but that does not mean you are a fearful person. You may struggle with confidence, but that does not mean you are someone without value. You may have failed, but that does not mean you are a failure. The problem begins when temporary experiences become permanent identities. One of the reasons people stay stuck is because the mind prefers familiarity over uncertainty. Even if a situation is painful, the brain often chooses what is known over what is unknown. This is why people sometimes remain in careers that make them unhappy, why they repeat unhealthy relationships, why they continue behaviors they consciously know are limiting them. It is not because they want to suffer, it is because the familiar feels safer. The human mind evolved to protect us from danger, but the modern dangers we face are often not physical. They are emotional. Rejection, failure, judgment, embarrassment, feeling like we are not enough. And for many people, these experiences can feel just as threatening. This connects to an important idea in psychology. Many of our problems were once solutions. A person who avoids conflict may have learned that conflict was unsafe. A person who constantly seeks approval may have learned that acceptance creates security. A person who tries to control every detail may have learned that uncertainty leads to disappointment. These behaviors are not random. They are adaptations. At some point, they helped you navigate life. But the problem is that the version of you who needed those strategies may no longer exist. The protection remains, even when the threat is gone. This is why personal growth can feel uncomfortable. Because growth does not only ask, what do I want to become? It also asks, what part of myself do I need to stop protecting? And sometimes, that is the hardest question. Because the things we hold on to are not always things we enjoy. Sometimes we hold on to them because they give us an identity. Someone may say, I am just an anxious person. I am just not creative. I am just someone who overthinks everything. But these statements can become psychological prisons. They turn patterns into identities. And once something becomes part of our identity, changing it can feel like losing a part of ourselves. Take a moment and reflect. What is one pattern in your life that you keep repeating, even though you know it no longer serves you? You don't have to share something personal if you don't want to, but simply becoming aware of that pattern can already change the way you relate to it. Part 3. Why knowing is not enough to change. One of the most frustrating experiences in personal growth is this. You understand the problem, but you still repeat the pattern. You know you should stop overthinking. You know perfectionism is holding you back. You know you want to create, change, or take a new direction. And yet, something inside you resists. Why? Because awareness happens in the conscious mind. But many of our deepest patterns are stored somewhere beneath conscious thought. The unconscious mind does not communicate through logic alone. It communicates through emotions, reactions, habits, and the body. This is why someone can logically know, I am safe, while another part of them still feels, I need to protect myself. Modern psychology has shown that the nervous system plays a major role in how we respond to uncertainty. When the brain perceives something as threatening, it does not always distinguish between physical danger and emotional danger. A difficult conversation, sharing your work, starting something new, being judged. These experiences may activate the same protective systems that evolved to keep us alive. This is why creative people often experience blocks. A writer may not lack ideas. They may fear what happens when those ideas are seen. An artist may not lack talent. They may fear what criticism means about their identity. Someone may not lack ambition. They may fear the responsibility that comes with success. The obstacle is often not the goal itself. The obstacle is what the goal represents. This is where many people misunderstand self-sabotage. They think self-sabotage means a part of them wants to fail, but usually it is the opposite. A part of them is trying to prevent pain. The person who procrastinates may be avoiding the possibility of failure. The person who never finishes projects may be avoiding judgment. The person who never takes risks may be protecting themselves from disappointment. The behavior may look irrational from the outside, but internally, it often makes perfect sense. Leonardo da Vinci is a fascinating example of the relationship between creativity and resistance. He is remembered as a genius, but he was also known for leaving many projects unfinished. At first glance, this might seem like a weakness, but another interpretation is possible. Leonardo was deeply curious. He constantly explored new ideas, questions, and possibilities. His mind was not simply trying to complete tasks, it was trying to understand the world. His challenge was not a lack of creativity. It was the tension between endless exploration and the need to complete. And this is something many creative people recognize. Sometimes the same quality that creates your greatest strengths can also create your biggest struggles. Deep sensitivity can create powerful art, but it can also create overthinking. Curiosity can create innovation, but it can also create distraction. The goal is not to remove these parts of yourself. The goal is learning how to work with them. Feeling stuck often happens when we fight against ourselves. One part wants growth, another part wants safety. One part wants to be seen, another part fears rejection. Real transformation begins when these parts stop fighting and start communicating. Because you are not stuck because you are broken. You are often stuck because a part of you is still trying to protect a version of yourself that you have already outgrown. Have you ever noticed that the thing you want most is also the thing that scares you the most? Share your thoughts below. Sometimes the fear around a goal reveals exactly where the next stage of growth is waiting. Part 4. Moving forward, from protection to possibility. If feeling stuck is often connected to old patterns, then the question becomes, how do we actually move forward? The answer is not by fighting ourselves. Many people approach change with criticism. They tell themselves, I need to stop being afraid. I need to become more confident. I need to get rid of my old habits. But transformation rarely happens through rejection. The parts of yourself that hold fear, doubt, or hesitation are not enemies. They are parts of you that developed for a reason. The goal is not to destroy them. The goal is to understand them. Because what we understand, we can work with. What we ignore often continues controlling us. Carl Jung describes psychological growth as a process of becoming more whole, not creating a completely new version of yourself, but integrating the different parts that already exist within you. The ambitious part, the uncertain part, the creative part, the protective part, the part that wants connection, the part that fears being hurt. When these parts are unconscious, they can pull you in different directions. But when you become aware of them, you gain choice. You stop automatically reacting. You begin responding. And that space between reaction and response is where freedom begins. This is why small moments of awareness are so powerful. The next time you notice yourself avoiding something important, instead of asking, why am I so lazy? Try asking, what am I protecting myself from? Maybe you are protecting yourself from rejection, maybe from failure, maybe from discovering that something you hoped for does not happen. The question changes everything, because now you are no longer fighting yourself. You are listening to yourself. David Bowie's career represents a powerful example of identity and transformation. Throughout his life, he constantly reinvented his artistic expression. Many people would have tried to protect the identity that made them successful, but Bowie refused to remain trapped inside one version of himself. He allowed himself to evolve, to experiment, to become something different. His creativity came from his willingness to let go of a fixed idea of who he was supposed to be. And this is something many people struggle with. We often think, this is who I am. But sometimes that sentence is not an expression of truth. Sometimes it is simply a description of who we have been until now. You are allowed to grow beyond the version of yourself that once helped you survive. Moving forward does not mean you will never feel fear again. It means fear no longer makes every decision for you. You can feel uncertain and still take the step. You can feel vulnerable and still share your voice. You can experience doubt and still create. Growth is not becoming fearless. It is becoming more connected to yourself than to the fears that once controlled you. Take a moment to reflect. What version of yourself are you still trying to maintain, even though you may have already outgrown it? Sometimes the life we want requires us to release an identity we no longer need. Conclusion: you are not stuck. You are transforming. Feeling stuck can feel like you are failing, like everyone else is moving forward while you are standing still. But sometimes feeling stuck is not a sign that something is wrong with you. Sometimes it is a sign that an old version of yourself no longer fits the person you are becoming. The patterns that once protected you may now be limiting you. The fears that once kept you safe may now be keeping you small. And the first step toward change is not fighting yourself. It is understanding yourself. Because growth is not about becoming a completely different person. It is about becoming more aware of the parts of yourself you have ignored, rejected, or misunderstood. Your fear can become awareness. Your sensitivity can become strength. Your experiences can become wisdom. You are not your past. You are not your fears. You are not the patterns you learned. You are the awareness that can recognize them and choose differently. So instead of asking, "What is wrong with me?" ask, "What is this part of me trying to show me?" Because sometimes the feeling of being stuck is not the end of your growth. It is the moment before transformation begins. If this video resonated with you, share in the comments. What is one pattern or belief about yourself that you see differently now? And if you want to explore more about psychology, creativity, consciousness, and personal transformation, subscribe to the channel. Understanding yourself is not the end of the journey. It is the beginning.